Happy 50th birthday to one of the most talented actors of his generation, Oscar winner Leonardo DiCaprio.
He likes to win.
Come on.
We'll be landing in 20 minutes. Do you want to play it easy or the hard way? And this isn't a tranquilizer.
Well, Pussy, you know a lot more about planes than guns.
Hello, Pussy. Now, you sure this is the suit, right?
Positive. It's the exact suit he wore in the movie.
Okay. I'll take 3.
Certainly, Mr. Fleming. Now what you need is one of those little foreign sports cars that he drives.
We're back, like we never left. Welcome to the Confessions of a Not-So-Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of this early Tuesday evening here with me in New York. But once again, we're going to skip past all that promotional jazz and get right to the guts of the episode. So today is a very special day for someone such as myself, who is already 50, because today's the day that the eternally youthful, graceful Leonardo DiCaprio joins the 50 and over club. And now my guy, Leo D, is going to start to get his automatic subscription to AARP monthly. That would be the American Association of Retired Persons. Although I don't think either myself nor Leo DiCaprio is going to be retiring anytime soon, there is something humbling and bracing about getting that magazine. And I'm not going to say anything more about that. But Leonardo DiCaprio, 50 years old today. And yeah, there's a lot of laughs we have because he only goes out with women less than half his age. And, you know, it's the Jack Nicholson from the movie Something's Gotta Give. His character is supposed to be, well, what Jack's real age was at the time. He's supposed to be in his mid-60s. And he's going out with Amanda Peet, who's maybe she's 24 or 25. And his character at the beginning, he's not even really joking. He says, I'm something of an expert on a 25-year-old woman because I've been dating him for 40 years. Well, at a certain point in Leonardo DiCaprio's very young life, he was dating women that were the same age as him. You know, when he was 12, he wasn't dating anybody who was 8. But now it doesn't seem as if there is much play if a woman is above 25. And I am not here to cast aspersions. I sure fuck not here to cast aspersions on Leo. Because I believe that, yes, he's a prodigiously talented actor. He's been in so many great movies, and he's given a wide range of fantastic performances across the generations now already. He's been in the public eye more than 3 decades. Hard to believe. But I believe that he is, on whole, I think he's a really good guy. He's, you know, been in support of all manner of charitable organizations such as Greenpeace. And yeah, I know he's flown on private jets in his life, but his efforts as far as conservation, I think his heart's in the right place. We can take issue with certain actions or getting involved with charities. Well, this charity sucks. All that's true. But I feel like he tries. And that's more than can be said for a lot of other people in Hollywood. But DiCaprio first came into the public eye and the public consciousness because he co-starred on a TV show that had been hugely popular in the kind of late Family Ties Cosby Show era, even though it was a different network, it was ABC, Growing Pains. And Growing Pains was the kind of show that was very popular in that era, which is, and it was set on Long Island, so that was the other thing. But it was a show about a solid kind of what we would call a nuclear family, dealing with ups and downs of life, growing pains, almost literally. And the star of the show was Kirk Cameron. The father was played by a terrific Alan Thicke, who had been a singer. His son, Robin Thicke, you're familiar with. He'd been a singer. He was actually a TV host. He hosted a notorious show that was purported to be the next Johnny Carson type Tonight Show. It was called Thick of the Night. And there are those that would say it's one of the 5 worst TV shows in history. But Growing Pains was a good show. It drew huge ratings, and Kirk Cameron himself briefly became a movie star. But DiCaprio appeared on what I believe was either the last season or the next to last season as he was a foster kid or a homeless kid who befriends the main family. And it was just something about his presence that people looked at him and said, he's got something. Yeah, he's an attractive kid. That's great. But he has something else. This does not come across, he doesn't come across like a kid just reading lines. He's taking extra beat. He's focused. He's got real talent. This is not just a sitcom actor. And in short order, he was cast in two very pivotal films in what I have argued is the single greatest year that Hollywood has ever had, 1993. Now, that is a hill I'll go down on. I will argue that year with any other year, whether you want 94, just on the strength of Pulp Fiction, Shawshank, and Gump. You want 99, which is absolutely also an all-timer. You want to go back to 1971, the year of A Clockwork Orange, Dirty Harry, The French Connection, Carnal Knowledge, and movies like that. But in 1993, Leonardo DiCaprio starred in two major films, one of which he's the star, This Boy's Life, which is a period piece opposite Ellen Barkin and Bobby D himself, working with Mr. De Niro for the first time in This Boy's Life, which is a movie I don't love. It's okay. I felt like it was overrated, but there is no overrating what DiCaprio does in the central role. And then later in the year, he starred opposite Johnny Depp in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, another very difficult film, not a pleasant film to watch. And Leonardo DiCaprio was part of what is generally regarded as the single strongest individual category in the history of the Oscars. I actually read an article saying in the entire history of the Oscars, the most stacked category in any one year was Best Supporting Actor for films released in 1993. Leonardo for Gilbert Grape was one of them. The eventual winner of the award, who everybody loves, and he's terrific, Tommy Lee Jones for The Fugitive with Harrison Ford. And then you had Pete Postlethwaite for a really good movie opposite another all-timer, Daniel Day-Lewis, In the Name of the Father. Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List, who there are tons of people feel that he should have won the award, and who I believe should have won the award, John Malkovich, who is absolutely spectacular opposite Clint Eastwood in one of Clint's best films he didn't direct, In the Line of Fire. And another guy who could have easily gotten a nomination that year, Christopher Reeve for Remains of the Day in Superman Aside, the other best performance that Reeve ever gave in a film. It was just an incredible year and such a stacked class. I don't know how Tommy Lee, and as I say, I love Tommy Lee Jones in that movie. I don't know how he won the award opposite the other big hitters. There was a groundswell. Many people thought DiCaprio was actually going to take it because he is revelatory in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. But Leonardo went from that and very smoothly upshifted into leading man type roles. Even though he was, he's young, he still looked like a kid even when he was well into his 20s. And The Basketball Diaries, an adaptation of Jim Carroll's novel, that was a movie with Mark Wahlberg that had substantial buzz and heat ahead of time, but it just didn't, that was 95, it just didn't land. It didn't hit the critics and audiences, although if you go on right now and you look at the posters, you see a ton of great reviews, but it didn't really make much of an impression when it hit. And he did, Romeo and Juliet was a big hit, and he did Marvin's Room, which I didn't love it. I know that Diane Keaton, the incredible Diane Keaton, got a Best Actress nomination for pretty much walking away with a movie that could have been construed as Meryl Streep's film. Marvin's Room was just okay. That was also with De Niro. Funny, I forgot that Leo worked with him in that film, although they didn't have any scenes together. The key film for DiCaprio, though, was Titanic. He was already a star. He was a star massively rising, and Titanic put him into the stratosphere. And the thing is, for someone like me and other film historians, you look at the all-timers, and DiCaprio is an all-timer as far as not just a talented actor, but a movie star. Somebody who has given great movie star performances, and movie star performances is very specific. It doesn't mean that you necessarily reach the heights of Oscar greatness, but there is a certain kind of role for a certain kind of star where you say, this guy here, or as the case of Julia Roberts in some of her films of the 90s. This is how you do it when you know you're the star. This is a masterclass. Not a masterclass in film acting, but a masterclass in how to be a movie star. And when I think of DiCaprio's version of Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry is Catch Me If You Can. He was 28 when that movie was shot, DiCaprio. He had just wrapped Gangs of New York, and then he had to go back for reshoots. That's why, if you ever wondered how Tom Hanks got cast in Catch Me If You Can, James Gandolfini was signed, sealed, and delivered, and the late, great Mr. Gandolfini had to drop out because of his contractual obligations to The Sopranos, and the fact that Martin Scorsese needed DiCaprio for reshoots on Gangs of New York, and the shooting schedules weren't going to work anymore. And Tom Hanks took the role of Carl Hanratty on about 2 minutes' notice. And they shot all of Hanks' scenes in an 8-day stretch. That is insane. But that's what happened. But Leo's performance in that movie, it's a masterclass. That's how you show you're a movie star. Movies of the era after Titanic. And he doesn't, to me, give movie star performance in Titanic. He's just... The Titanic, as we know, dollar for dollar, one of the biggest hits in the history of cinema. And he took his time after Titanic. He didn't jump back into it. He circled the projects. There was some talk he was going to do Spike Lee's Summer of Sam, and luckily that didn't work out because I love Spike Lee, New Yorker, Yankee fan, Knick fan, all that kind of stuff. But Summer of Sam was terrible. And DiCaprio's radar sense to not take that, pretty smart. And then he almost got involved, or I should say his handlers almost got him involved with American Psycho. And Christian Bale was ready to go. And then there was talk that DiCaprio's people wanted him for that role. And thank goodness he didn't take that. I don't believe, well, number one, Bale was perfection. There wasn't any reason for anyone to circle it. It was his role, and he made it his own, and Bale's kind of joked about it. He knows he was the right guy. And yes, from a craftsmanship standpoint, Leo would have been terrific. He would have been perfect. Bale made it his own. And you know what? DiCaprio ended up doing The Beach for Danny Boyle. And it's a book that I actually read. Alex Garland's novel is great. It's a great book. The movie is not great. It's a pretty good adaptation. It takes the story down some different avenues. For DiCaprio's follow-up to Titanic, as a star, he did the Woody Allen film. I don't remember the name of it, but it wasn't very good. He had a small role in a movie as a big shot Hollywood star, ironically, or actually not ironically. But he's somebody who, DiCaprio, when he was in his 20s and approaching 30, he was willing to take risks. And there's something to be said for not just settling, for not just making a movie that you know is going to be an easy shoot and you'll make good money and maybe there'll be something in the script to challenge you. So in that time frame after he did The Beach, which was not successful at the box office, and so that there are times and have been times in history where audiences followed an actor they love, Tom Cruise being the best example. Cruise made a couple of movies such as Cocktail, which were hits, but they really weren't very good, you know, and I'm as big a Tom Cruise fan as there is out there, but the audiences still went to see Cocktail. Cocktail basically is Top Gun in a bar. It's Top Gun with a guy who is a bartender, basically playing the Pete Mitchell role. It's the same movie. And Days of Thunder is the same movie. At Color of Money, very close to being the same movie. DiCaprio signed to do Gangs of New York, and he was circling what became Catch Me If You Can. And you want to talk about somebody firing on all cylinders when they're still so young and have so much career and real estate still in front of them. At the tail end of 2002, Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, which is not really one of the 5 best Martin Scorsese films. I don't have it in my top 5, certainly in the top 10. But it does not even, to me, approach the transcendence of Raging Bull, Goodfellas, and especially Taxi Driver. Gangs of New York is just a great movie, but it's a great movie within normal parameters. It, to me, is not on the level of the other 3. But DiCaprio was willing to get grimy and dirty and play down the fact that he is such an attractive man. Did it too earlier when he made movies like California, rather than just coasting on how insanely attractive he was considered. My God, he looks like young Redford. And then, of course, he worked with Redford, who directed A River Runs Through It in 92. We're talking about Brad. DiCaprio had those 2 movies that came out within a week of one another, the tail end of 2002. And Catch Me If You Can is a movie that I rank, it's in my top 5 Spielberg. I think that as much as that movie was an enormous box office hit and got great reviews from critics, I still feel as if it's underrated. And I look upon it the same way as I do The Truman Show, which was 4.5 years prior. The Truman Show is a movie that came out the summer of 1998. It was an enormous box office hit. It got phenomenal reviews from critics, but I still consider it to be underrated, that it's undersold just how good it is, how prescient it was. And with Catch Me If You Can, DiCaprio, what I mentioned about a masterclass in being a movie star, yes, it's a masterclass in how to be a movie star for sure. Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies, more so than any other film, is a great star, not a great actor, a guy with very strong screen presence in Arnold, but that is the movie, that's the movie star masterclass for Arnold. It's True Lies. How do you do it? How do you show that you're the star of the film and an enduring superstar without winking at the audience? Well, DiCaprio also does it in Catch Me If You Can. And I feel like he should have gotten the Best Actor nomination for that movie. I would say to this day, if it's not his best performance, because the character of Frank Abagnale Jr., there is a performative aspect to the character because he was a con man. DiCaprio's performance is like, it's on 3 levels, and he is stupendous the whole way through. The way the gears turn, the confidence. And you say to yourself, is the confidence, is it DiCaprio or is it Frank Abagnale Jr.? Like, there's so much going on in that film. And one of the great moments was when the movie was coming out, the real Frank Abagnale Jr., I guess he was around 60 at the time that the film came out. And he was asked, and he's not going to say that he hated the movie if he didn't like the movie. He was asked what he thought of the film. And he said, oh, I mean, I could tell you. And he said, I loved the movie. They said, well, is there anything that you would change? Because it seems that they followed the book and his, the way that he recounts his story, they followed it pretty closely. And then, well, one thing he said was, I got into some even crazier stuff that they didn't put in the movie because Mr. Spielberg said it wasn't believable enough. Yeah, but Mr. Spielberg, this really happened. Yeah, I know, but no, we can't sell this. But the one thing that Abagnale said, which cracked me up when I read it, he said the biggest problem he had with the movie, just don't think DiCaprio was good looking enough to play me. And that, I was howling. And a lot of people obviously he was being facetious. That would be like the real Joe Pistone with Donnie Brasco saying, I love what Johnny Depp did, but he's just not good looking enough to play me in a movie. Another incredible DiCaprio performance, though. Another film with Martin Scorsese. They worked together again, The Aviator. And The Aviator is a long movie, and it is a very difficult film. It has moments that go out of their way seemingly to make the audience uncomfortable. And specifically because Howard Hughes had a lot of things that drove him to distraction and beyond. And when you're talking about OCD at that level, it hits a little bit too close to me, who struggled with, I don't want to say OCD, but struggled with not being able to let go of certain things and obsessing over stuff that wasn't really that important in the grand scheme of things. And intellectually, you know this, but there is something that is keeping you from taking off the accelerator. And DiCaprio nailed every aspect of the performance. It was when Hughes was in his director and producer and filmmaker period, which I learned about when I was at NYU. Some of the aerial sequences in those movies that he made in the 30s, we were learning, they don't even know how he did. They're like, was he really up there? How did he shoot this? Hughes could have been a great filmmaker if he had just focused on that. But his kind of womanizer period, and a very young Gwen Stefani played Jean Harlow, and Kate Beckinsale, fantastic as Rita Hayworth. Boy, was she good. And it's just a gorgeously shot film with so many different great actors, from Alan Alda, Alec Baldwin on down, showing up in supporting roles. I love Jamie Foxx in Ray, but I really thought that DiCaprio should have won the Best Actor award for what he did in The Aviator. And for such a long movie, his performance never lags, it never wavers, and the seams never show through. That incredible moment where he kind of almost gets barked at by Kate Blanchett's Katharine Hepburn. And man, was Kate incredible as Hepburn. Getting the speech pattern, that very specific, that kind of clipped diction of Katharine Hepburn, she was phenomenal. But the moment where he dresses her down without saying, hey, I'm worth $200 million. Don't talk to me like I'm some schmuck who wandered in off the street here. What he says, in fact, is, don't talk down to me. Don't ever talk down to me. You're a movie star. And then he wags his finger at her. Nothing more. But he always challenged himself. He always wanted to see where he could go. And not just making easy money, movie star type performances. But he just looked a certain way. And sometimes you just can't help it. In a movie like Inception, a very challenging film, not one of my favorites. I appreciate the artistry of Christopher Nolan. Hey, Christopher Nolan is the closest thing we're ever going to get to another Stanley Kubrick in terms of his shot composition, and he's probably got an IQ of 180, if I had to guess. I bet he's as intelligent as Scorsese in terms of book smarts, because we know Scorsese is a huge reader. But I like what DiCaprio does in that movie, the kind of sadness of character Dom Cobb and all of that. And, you know, there are those who would say, I didn't love Shutter Island, by the way. I think it's one of the weaker films in Scorsese's career. A lot of people love that. DiCaprio gives his best. Mark Ruffalo is solid. Some people don't like when celebrities get involved with causes. They certainly open themselves up to criticism. As I say, if you're going to go on a kind of quest, preservation or conservation, and, you know, it's kind of like if John Travolta talks about the need to use less fossil fuels and he's out there flying his Airstream or Gulfstream jet, and it's like, bro, you're burning more fossil fuels than me, and you get into that kind of stuff. And again, people have some laughs at his expense and all of that. But I have never seen a film with DiCaprio where he was not grinding, where he was not giving it everything he had. This is not somebody who ever just picked up a paycheck. I feel like he has believed in every project that he's taken part in. And he doesn't work as much as some of the other, some of his contemporaries. And I feel like it's because he wants every movie to mean something. And Sean Penn, who you could argue from the previous generation, even people who don't like him personally will say, no, he's, you want to put Nick Cage in there, but Sean Penn is just a stupendously talented actor. He's a terrific filmmaker too. But even though Sean Penn has talked about it, and that, I didn't really have the need to work as much as, I could, the implication being I already made enough money. If I don't believe in a project, I'm not going to do it. But even with that, Penn has made some clunkers where you say, man, what was he thinking? This really doesn't even seem like it was a good script, like that film he did about a decade ago, The Gunman. But I couldn't even name what I think is a DiCaprio film that sucks. I feel like there's quality in every one of his movies. And most recently, I feel like, The Revenant is a movie I respect. I don't love. I mean, Tom Hardy is another cheat code. What an incredible actor. He, of course, worked with him in Inception. But I really liked Don't Look Up. And that was another situation where DiCaprio was clearly de-emphasizing, and the filmmaker was de-emphasizing what an attractive man he is. He's trying to make him look like an astronomer, and maybe a little prosthetics to make his cheeks seem a little fuller, that he's not in great shape, and all of this sort of stuff. But that's the first movie that I believe made a point, clue the audience in that he's not a kid anymore. And there is that unbelievable moment with Ariana Grande basically playing herself, just with a different name. And Leo is about to go, and he's working with Kate Blanchett again. I didn't even think of that. Where he's about to go on to a TV show, a morning show with Jennifer Lawrence's character. She's the one who has figured out the world is about to end. We've got a couple of months and we're all going to die. What are we going to do? And he's been told that the Ariana Grande character, hey, she recently had a bad breakup, and just tell her that you're a fan and everything's going to be fine. You know, she has a little bit of an attitude sometimes, but just tell her you like her music or whatever. So DiCaprio sees her and says something to, I'm a fan and I'm sorry about, your breakup. And she seems okay. And then he says something else. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he says something that ticks her off, and she calls him old. And and I are the same age from November 12th of every year until my next birthday, which is December 29th. And at age 47, I saw Don't Look Up, hearing a young woman in her mid-20s refer to Leonardo DiCaprio as an old fuck. That kind of hurt. That kind of hurt. But even in a film like that, he gives a really good performance. Yeah, the film has mostly comedic leanings. It's like satire, if you want to call it a black comedy, it's closer to just pure satire than a black comedy. But I liked it a lot, and it's one of those polarizing films, and it's the only DiCaprio film that you can say this about. At the end of 2021, and this is something you could Google, I'm not just, talking out of the air, as they say, but the movie made a lot of 10 best lists, and it made a lot of 10 worst lists. And that's when you know you've done something, for better or worse, when people are raving about it and people are trashing it. It means inspired a reaction. And from the kind of Andy Kaufman perspective, where he seemed to not really give a shit if audiences loved him or hated him. He just wanted a reaction. And from that perspective, the movie Don't Look Up, which had a couple of Oscar nominations, I don't remember who was up for what, but I thought it was terrific, and I got the satire. I thought it was funny. Jonah Hill was a scream. Mark Rylance, who is also a phenomenal actor, he was fantastic as a kind of a Bill Gates, Elon Musk type character. What a brilliant actor Mark Rylance is. Holy crap. But that's the last movie of his that I saw and would say, yeah, I'm really dazzled. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon, great film. And yeah, Scorsese and Leo working with Mr. De Niro again. That's also not a very accessible film. And some people pointed out, and they weren't wrong, that DiCaprio, as he's presented in that film, isn't he a little bit long in the tooth to be a veteran? Like the math almost didn't work. Like he was too old to live the life that he had, because he should have been at least 10 to 15 years younger. But it's a movie, we go with it. But Leonardo DiCaprio, 50 years old today, a fantastic film actor and a natural character. And I think, based on everything that we've seen and read, I think he's an okay guy. Happy birthday, Leo, from a fellow 50-year-old fan. This has been episode 355 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Tuesday evening here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, or the others in which we're hosted, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with a new episode real soon. Until then, peace.